This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We're here headed to Salonika. And Salonika in the history of the Jewish people was a key cog in the Messiah of Klal Yisrael. From 1492 until 1590, Salonika was the epicenter of Judaism and Torah for Klal Yisrael. Many Gedolei Yisrael lived in Salonika. Some of their names you may be familiar with, others less so. You had Rabbi Yosef Taitachik. Is that name familiar to you? Rabbi Yosef Taitachik. Just to give you an example, Rabbi Yosef Taitachik was one of the three candidates, Min HaShamayim, who was nominated to write the Shulchan Aruch, along with Rabbi Yosef Karoi and a third. You have the Marashtam, Rabbi Shmuel Di Modina. You have the Lechem Mishnah, Rabbi Avram Di Beton. Rabbi Shlomo Al-Kabitz was here. Rabbi Moshe Mitrani was here. Rabbi Yosef Karoi was here. This was the number one destination when Jews were exiled from Spain, 1492. Years later from Portugal, they came to Salonika. I want to read to you a little bit of some of the descriptions that the Gedolim write about Salonika in those years. So Rabbi Shmuel Di Modina, the Maharashtam writes in Chashemishah Simon Tov Memhei. He says, through the traversing of the generations, Havcha Shalanuki, Salonika has been transformed Liois Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael. Now, not every city in Klal Yisrael was called Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael. Many of you may come from communities in New York that have not yet been called Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael, present company included. You may come from communities with many yeshivos, many batei midrashim, many pizza stores. Not yet have they warranted the title Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael. There are a few cities that in the history of the Jewish people, Izmir was called Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael. Salonika, the Marashtam says, was upgraded to the title of Ir Ve'eim Bi Yisrael. Kehilois Gedolos, big communities, Morganois Hayabay Lahafli. The number of institutions was wondrous. Gedolei Torah, Marbitzei Torah, Hayuba Lameos. There were literally hundreds of Rabbanim here. I have a sefer, take a look at this, Rabbanon Takifei Ara, a list of literally hundreds of Achronim that lived in Salonika. I venture to say, maybe you've heard of one out of every 100 of them. Marashtam says, Kefi ma shenoidel lanu begalos, ein b'shum makoim kamois gedola miloim dei Torah kazeh. There is no city in the world that had more loim dei Torah than Salonika. Nimtza shagadla malas kedushas chevras talmud Torah zu asher b'Salonika mikad sad mekamas eichos. Therefore, the eminence of the various institutions in Salonika transcended institutions anywhere else. Salonika hi ir gedola lelokim ruba Yisrael. The majority of the residents of Salonika were Jewish, to the point where even into the 20th century, we'll see, the ports were still closed on Shabbos. Uba yeshivos v'chevras talmud Torah she'ein kamoiha b'chal ha'olam. There were Torah academies, there were shuls, there were batei knesios, of which there was nothing like that throughout the world. By the way, Reb Chaim Falaji writes about Salonika, Ir gedola shel chachamim v'shel soifrim Ir ve'eim Bi Yisrael. We were in Turkey a few years ago, and Shlomi Kol said it was a good trip. So we went to the kever of Reb Chaim Falaji. Reb Chaim Falaji says Salonika also Ir ve'eim Bi Yisrael Giboirim Asra Dezakike Denura. The sages were of such eminence, they protruded, they spit out fire. They were so great in Torah, they were exuding fire, Shemehem Teitzei Torah. So you may have thought you're coming to Salonika, it's a nice destination, we have good tour guides, it's a beautiful community. This was a city that played a major role in the transmission of Torah to Klal Yisrael. I want to begin in segment number 1 by sharing with you about Rav Yosef Taitachak. We're still going, yeah? Rav Yosef Taitachak. Rav Yosef Taitachak was born in 1465. He passed away in 1546. He was born in Constantinople, Istanbul now, in Turkey. By the way, Salonika at the time was part of Turkey. And he was born in Spain. He passed away in Istanbul. And he was already an adult when he was forced to leave Spain with his father in 1492. They settled in Salonika. And Reb Yosef Taitachak's father, Reb Shlomo Taitachak, is one of the leaders of the Sephardic community. Reb Yosef Taitachak then started one of the most important yeshivas in the history of the Jewish people. Now this is very important to know. Reb Yosef Taitachak wrote in a letter that for 30 years his yeshiva here in Salonika was one of the most important yeshivas in the world. For 15 years, he says, there was no yeshiva like his yeshiva, the Kamos Uve'echas. He writes that he had more than 20 Talmidim who were worthy to be Rosh Yeshiva in their own right. By the way, Rav Yosef Taitachak, for 40 years, he did not sleep in a bed. Rav Yosef Taitachak slept on a board. Only Friday night, only on Shabbos, he would sleep in a bed. Moreover, the Chida writes in the Shem Hagadolim that we have a tradition about Rabbi Yosef Taitachak that in a 24-hour period he was involved in teaching the yeshiva for 18 hours, and he only...
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.